Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
A great day to you and welcome to another edition of My Hometown. I'm your host, Bill Horan, along with Nassau Community College student Joe Ritter. Our special guest today is Town of Oyster Bay Supervisor Joseph Saladino. Town of Oyster Bay Supervisor Joseph Saladino, with more than 30 years of government experience, serves as the town's 70th supervisor and brings a tireless work ethic and hands-on approach to the job. Supervisor Saladino served as New York State Assemblyman for 14 years, during which time he pushed for government reform, tax reduction, and the consolidation of government. During his years in the Assembly, Saladino worked to deliver on-time state budgets, bring ethics reform, cut spending, and eliminate a multi-million-dollar state budget deficit. Creating a balanced budget, Supervisor Saladino has pledged to bring the same fiscally conservative and results-driven approach to the town government. He is dedicated to streamlining operations and trimming expenditures while continuing to provide residents with outstanding facilities and services. Supervisor Saladino said a mainstay of his administration will be the provision of an open and accessible government that places a premium on accountability and responsiveness. He is a strong advocate for the environment and is intent on protecting the town's natural resources, including its miles of pristine waterways on both the north and south shores. Supervisor Saladino, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. It's such a pleasure to be on this program with you and with Joe and with all the listeners of WHPC.
Now, please tell us, what has it been like for your first few weeks in office?
Well, I'm on the job 4 weeks now, and it's been a whirlwind. I absolutely love this job. I've never been happier in my life. I was beginning my 14th term in the New York State Assembly, where I travel from Long Island to Albany every week. And that's a very fulfilling job to work in our state capitol, a beautiful building, a very interesting job. But now I've come home. I've come home to rebuild a new day in the town of Oyster Bay. And it feels like a renaissance. We have changed so many things in such a short amount of time. For instance, we have changed our department heads with sweeping new reforms. We put in a new town attorney who was a former federal prosecutor. And not only was he a former federal prosecutor, but he has tremendous municipal law experience. That's a very rare combination for an attorney. He's been making a big difference already, going over every contract, ensuring everything is done legally and properly, and we're also bringing about a tremendous amount of cost savings. We have brought about sweeping ethics reform in the town of Oyster Bay. For instance, on that note, we created an ethics board made up of entirely independent individuals. I was not part of the process of selecting them, and no other elected official in the town of Oyster Bay was a part of the selection process. None of them worked for the town of Oyster Bay in terms of the new law, the new town code that was established as to how we select them to make sure that there's a tremendous separation between the ethics board and my administration. They have their own counsel, their own attorney, to guide them through the process, to assist them. That has nothing to do with the town attorney's office and has nothing to do with my administration, ensuring that independence. They're from a multitude, all the political parties are represented, so it's not people of one political party. They have a multitude of backgrounds as well. Their resumes are exceptional. One of them is the co-chair of the Nassau County Bar Association Ethics Committee. Someone who has been doing litigation work and working on ethics issues and a wide variety of practices of law, so they do have that expertise. One of the women on the ethics committee, it was with Lufthansa International Airlines for many years, guiding the workforce, ensuring that they operate with ethical behavior, legal behavior, training the workforce. We have someone who's been in banking for many, many years and dealt with the compliance, meaning that all of their employees complied with all the ethics laws. And the list goes on and on. So we have great people on this ethics board. And one of the things they will do, one of their duties, is to go over the financial disclosure forms that now all of the town employees who deal with any decision-making process must now fill out. Those forms I brought back from Albany, except when we instituted them in the town of Oyster Bay, we made them far more stringent, far more detailed. People have to provide quite a bit more information than in the past to ensure that transparency, to ensure that ethical behavior. And this board will review all of those forms, will make all those forms open to the public, will ensure that the employees of our town have no conflicts of interest. Not only will employees of the town of Oyster Bay have to fill out these forms, but anyone who wants to do work with the town of Oyster Bay, people who own companies that are contracted by our town will have to fill out the ethics forms. So we see their financial disclosures and the public understands where they stand financially. This helps to ensure that everyone who works for the town of Oyster Bay or who works with providing services for the town of Oyster Bay has a clean record, is working ethically, and providing that additional transparency. But that's not all that we've done.
It sounds like a great team, though. I'm going to say I'm very impressed what you've already answered, and a great team, and also the kind of team that gives the constituency a great deal of confidence in their leadership.
We're rebuilding trust.
Yeah.
Bill, we are making sure that everyone who works for the town of Oyster Bay or works with our town operates entirely ethical, is transparent. We're making sure that they're working legally. For instance, now every town of Oyster Bay employee will have to pass an ethics training course, every single one of them. They'll have to also ensure that they have read a new booklet we've created to understanding in plain language the town laws on behavior. So they're acting ethically and they're acting legally, and they sign for that to ensure that they've read it. We have many other steps we've put in place, and that's just the ethical piece. In these 4 weeks, we did the sweeping ethics reform. We have replaced many of the commissioners. I consolidated 6 departments into one. Talk about cost savings and talk about a strong agenda. We had a department of public works, a highway department. We had the divisions. Now it's one big department of public works with highway, sanitation, sort, those are the fellows who do the men and women who do the recycling in the town, our engineering department, and our central vehicle maintenance. We have at least 180 vehicles of all sizes, from the big trucks, 6-wheelers, 10-wheelers, down to the pickup trucks. And all of these vehicles, our entire fleet, are maintained by our central vehicle maintenance.
That's one of those things that the general public, myself included, I'm sure, Joe, we never even think of, and yet you're responsible for keeping all these trucks running, and somebody's got to put the gas in there,
Somebody has to put the gas. Someone has to repair them. Someone has to make sure that they're up and operational, not only from time to time, but what I learned through handling and overseeing and managing the storm that we had in February, it was my second day of work.
Oh, great.
Second day on the job, we were preparing for the storm. The third day, we were in the midst of the storm. So I was handling the media calls. We were getting our message out in the media from the War Room, or the Department of Public Works and Highway Operations Center, which is located on the LIE Service Road. So we had television stations from Manhattan coming in, ABC, NBC, CBS. We were dealing with News 12, FiOS. We were calling out to radio stations because I love radio stations, as do all of your listeners here.
Absolutely.
College.
Good
no
publicity
doubt.
for us, Joe.
Well,
there we go.
WHPC at 90.3 FM is the place to go for information.
That's an unpaid commercial. We didn't pay you, right?
No.
Ethics, we want to be ethical.
Nor would I accept anything. But it was so important to get the word out, to get people to understand the most efficient way to plow streets from curb to curb is to get their cars off the road. we were able to get our sanitation drivers and pickup people to get out in the early part of the morning, and I actually went to meet and greet them and to give them the hugs at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was on the job as they were coming in the door to work to motivate them to do the best job ever. We also made sure that we got the sanitation routes picked up before the plowing began, because the snow was just beginning. So why sit around paying the workers to watch the snow fall until it was deep enough to be able to plow it? So we managed that in a way that got the garbage picked up. Then we went from a garbage pickup to a plowing operation with the very least amount of overtime. So we were also protecting our taxpayers. From there, from the operations center, we drove around and we were able to watch what was going on to make sure the job was getting done right. And from there, I went to the call center, and I was picking up calls from residents and then radioing out to the trucks to make sure we sent the plow driver who was the closest to maybe retuck a corner, to reroute, get an intersection cleaned, or to get back and more properly plow a street. And then from there, perhaps the most exciting part of my day, which was now nighttime, and I'd been up since 3 a.m., I got into the shop. And I worked with the men to rebuild the equipment. Most people don't realize you have the truck, then they see the driver go by and beep to them and wave to them and thank them. It's a long to 30 hours for some of them. But what they don't realize is so many trucks, equipment breaks. You have salt and sand coming up and corroding the parts. When we have a heavy freeze, what it does, and part of my job is to understand engineering, construction, to understand nature. What happens is the ground freezes and it lifts up the manhole covers, as well as the ring that the manhole covers fit in. When a plow hits that, it damages the plow. But what our town plows have is a blade, a thin blade like a razor blade, that's attached to the plow, so that all that breaks is just that strip of metal rather than damaging the plow. So when that breaks...
That's smart. That really...
Yes, and there's hydraulic systems with hydraulic lines that send the hydraulic fluid back and forth so the plow can be manipulated left, right, up, down, and electrical systems as well that can corrode in the salt and the abuse that happens to a snowplow. So I went into the shop, put on those latex gloves, worked with the other mechanics, and we replaced blades. We repaired hydraulic systems on the plows. I enjoy mechanics myself. So the workforce loved it. They had never seen a supervisor of the town actually roll up his sleeves and get in there and work with them. We have some pneumatic tools to make it quick, to get the bolts off the old blades and attach the new blades, and then get the truck right back out on the road. It's an impressive operation, and it has to work like clockwork. We have parts waiting right there.
Well, if it doesn't work, you've got traffic backed up all over.
You have traffic backed up.
And those news cameras are going to blame you-know-who. And I'm pointing at the supervisor.
So these are just some of the operations that take place. It requires pre-planning. We inform the public. We do media information. We work on the calls. We keep going back and forth as decisions are made to reduce overtime. So we made it not only a very efficient plow effort, but we also were very efficient in terms of the taxpayers. We've already cut over $1 million out of the town's budget, and I'm just getting started.
But being a town supervisor sounded like a real cool job till you told me about that 4 a.m. getting up and being out with the troops.
I didn't get up at 4 a.m.
You had to get up before that. Oh, my gosh. So I'm going to scratch that off my list, Joe. For my future jobs, town supervisor, I'll stick with playing for the Mets or managing the Yankees or something.
Bill and Joe, what's very interesting, I've been working in government for upwards of 30 years. 14 years in the New York State Assembly. I loved that job in Albany, making laws, meeting with the governor, meeting with the public, dealing with education, funding to our community colleges, ensuring that we did so much to protect Long Island and fighting for our fair share of tax dollars, bringing more jobs here so that students would have a job after they graduated, helping to fight back.
Yeah, I love
helping to fight back on Common Core, which affects so many students in high school and younger. but it takes a long time to get something done in Albany. It's a slow process. It's designed that way.
It sounds like you're not a slow mover, though.
I'm not a slow mover at all. I have so much energy I could charge your cell phone by holding it in my hand.
I see that. Anybody who gets up at 4 o'clock and even before that, I'm impressed. Supervisor Saladino, at this point in the show, we're going to take a brief break from